let's start with your story. What's your story? Why are you here in Canada? What brought you here?
Um, I'm a software engineer with 11 years of experience, and I started working just in the second year of university. And eventually, very intensive political life of Ukraine pushed me to much stable countries. And eventually, I decided to came to Canada and started looking for opportunities in Canada. And eventually, I found Global Skill Hub. And within this platform, we found a quite good position for me. It's a DevOps lead position, and it quite good. Have a good match with my experience. I have been working with AWS more than 4 years, and so in different areas, this performance optimization, cost optimization, security, scalability, and all of this related to business activities, not just do some technical stuff just for doing, but resolving business problems. And I did a Google for several platforms which are specializing in relocation, and applied to all of them, but Global Skill Hub was the fastest and, as for me, the most professional of them.
Good. That's nice to hear. Great. So so you stumbled upon Global Skill. Where did you? So you found Global Skills Hub just by searching, or did you know anyone that had been part of our community before?
I found mentioning of Global Skill in one of the chats related to relocation from ex-USSR, and one of your earlier client successfully worked with you, and they shared good references, and I came through this way.
Okay, that's good. Makes sense. And what about when you wanted to apply? Did you have any hesitations, any concerns that you felt could be a big barrier for you to take this make this move?
The biggest barrier was my higher education and non-existence of them. So I don't have any finished postgraduate education, no any university degree or something like this. And the biggest my concern was related to them. I wasn't sure that I can get opportunity and work visa, work permit without these credentials.
Okay. And did it cause any problems during the process?
No, eventually no any problems, and whole process was smooth and as possible.
Okay. And then talking about the process, tell me a little bit more about it. What is this exact process that you went through?
The process has several stages. One of them is initial filter in Global Skill itself. It's a simple coding challenge. I had something 3 hours, as I remember, for resolve not so complex compute program task, and additional meeting with subject matter expert, and we discussed industry, some tooling, some processes, and eventually, as I understood, I passed this gate. And later we polish and adapt my resume for Canadian job market and IT market. And as I remember, just the second relevant position actually brought me to Canada.
Okay, the second one. Okay, that's interesting. Was there any part of the process that that you found was maybe unnecessary or too challenging, or in any way, it didn't make sense to you?
No, as for me, it was easier than I expected, actually.
Okay.
And I expected harder coding challenge, and also I expected much more harder this meeting with subject matter expert.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, it was quite easy.
Okay. And what about the company that you're currently working at? First, tell us a little bit about that, about your current company, and then I'd like to know about what the process was like when you started their interview process.
The company itself is FundThrough, and it's
Mm-hmm.
a fintech startup.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a strong community, strong market appearance, and quite good, a general balance between work and life, and good team. And currently they are growing quite fast, and they need a reliable software platform. They need a tool set and a lot of automation related to the development process.
Mm-hmm.
Someone have to lead this process, build this systems, and make life of developers much easier than it was before. And they looking someone for this position. As I know, they try to get such engineer in Canada, and looking for local market for 6 months, and cannot find the appropriate person.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually they started looking abroad. And as a result, I have several meetings, but it was quite very close to each other. We have an initial meeting with CTO, and on next week we have a bunch of meetings with different engineers and developers. And just on the end of this, I received the offer. It was so fast and really fast and unexpected for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good. But when you say fast, just so everybody understands, what do you mean by fast? How long did it actually take from beginning to end?
1 week.
1 week. Wow. Okay. Okay.
Initial meeting, and in 4 working days, a group of next meetings, and on the end of this series of meetings, I received the offer.
Wow. Okay. Okay. That is actually pretty fast, even with our standards. So that's really good. And was there any difficulty during the process with FundThrough?
No, and the biggest challenge was after arriving, understanding of the business itself. How does it work?
Mm-hmm.
What is the source of revenue, of profit? What is possible risks for business? How I can mitigate them? How I can make the business and development much more easier. And it was the hardest part, just because as usual on startups there is no settled and stale configurations of departments and whatsoever, and you have to understand what's going on, who are these people, what they are doing, and how you can help them. And as for me, it was the hardest part.
Okay. Okay, that's fair. And I guess that's kind of your job, so that's okay, right? That's
Yeah.
so that's makes sense. Great. So we talked a lot about the process. You kind of brushed up on your experience once you landed. Tell us a little bit about that. What was it like when you first landed in Canada, and what were the things that you had to do to get ready? What were how did you feel when you landed? Maybe walk us through those final days and once you arrived.
The final days was kind of understanding that I will live in my home country for a while. I'm not sure that it will be forever, but for a long time. And I had a bunch of meetings with my friends, with colleagues, and a lot of preparations related to Canada itself, arranging a living place, trying to get the best road, the best tickets, insurance, and all of the stuff, because I came there with my family, with my wife and small son, and I have to understand how I can ensure healthcare, how I can ensure places to live, to sleep, and all of this stuff. And all of these preparations take so much energy in the last week, and I actually had so much time between transitions. I made all of these preparations within 1 week. I just left my previous place of work, and on next week I get start a job on FundThrough.
Wow.
And yeah, and I was lucky. I found apartments in Toronto before arriving here, and I just arrived there just after airport. And the team of FundThrough also was very helpful. They bring a bunch of food, appliances, and all of this required to successful landing stuff just to my apartment. And we just get some food and went sleep, because it was
Nice.
a very long flight. Flight from Ukraine takes 13 hours, and we had a stop in France just for sleeping for my child. And eventually it was quite hard, because a small child cannot sleep in the flight during the transatlantic flight. And we had 10 hours of playing, rushing, crying, and whatsoever.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like a hell of a journey, but yeah, it seems like it was worth it. And when you landed in Canada, was there anything? When did you land in Canada? What time of year?
It was something like 2 p.m. and we arrived to Toronto. And Yusuf joined with us in airport, described some easier way, and made some couple photos for memories. And also he helped us with transportation to the apartments, because we have a lot of luggage, and it was not so easy to put them into one car and get in the car itself. All of this also very important stuff was really sleek and easy for us. Just thankful for Yusuf and global team.
Okay, nice. And once you landed, what surprised you about Canada? What did you not expect?
The feeling of home.
Really? Okay, interesting.
I had several moving within Ukraine. I had trips to United States for a long time, and when you arrive to some new places, usually you don't have a feeling that it's like a home. You are familiar with this, you know this place, and all of these feelings. But when we came to Toronto and to our apartments, in just a couple of days, my wife, we caught ourselves and that we behaving like at home. It was quite unusual for so many places, but it was interesting feeling.
Wow. And do you think, what made you feel like home? Was there anything specific, or
No, in general.
Okay.
So On one hand, Ukraine and Canada are very different countries in customs, in infrastructure, in behavior, in everything. Yep. But on another hand, Canada isn't an exotic country. Yep.
Mhm.
So there's the same kind of transportation, payments, people, all of this stuff, and it was quite cozy and friendly.
Mhm. Okay, interesting, interesting. I think that's probably the first response like that I've heard anyone say. So that's quite interesting to me. Um, so okay, let's talk a little bit about your life in Canada. How long has it been since you've been there?
I'm here since February, so
Oh
it's
wow.
a little bit more than 4 months.
Okay, so you landed right in the kind of coldest time of the year, right?
Yep, yep.
Yep. Okay, that's good. So you know you got the shock right up front, and then you should be okay now, right? Or it's not that shocking.
It's not so shocking because in Ukraine also can be cold and
Okay,
as
that's good.
minus 30 degrees, a lot of snow and snowstorms, so it wasn't a new experience for us.
Okay, I guess that's probably one of the reasons why it felt like home, right?
Yeah.
Also cold. Okay, good. Interesting. And uh, tell me a little bit about your life in FundThrough. Like, what does your day look like when you go to the office? Describe that day to us. What does a typical day look like for you?
Typically, I'm cycling to my work on my bicycle, and I have an early coffee on the office just after arriving, and afterwards we have a stand-up with the team, and we discuss our plans for next day and any blockers, possibly findings, and all of the stuff. And mostly we just working on doing our stuff, but it's going to kind of easygoing atmosphere. Yeah, we have a lot of parts made from FundThrough, some cozy working places, good coffee, and all of snacks related to this. And a general behavior in team is very friendly. And I'm trying to I'm not trying, but usually I came to office quite late, approximately 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. and working after everyone leaves the office. And it's a good time to reconcile the day and do some preparations for the next day or finish some tasks in quiet situation in accordance to knowledge and experience or some news which you received during the day from other team members, from external sources of news, and from our platform product itself.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And what is it about FundThrough that you really like in terms of your working environment, your colleagues? It could be about the working culture there. What is it that's uh, really interesting for you, or you like the best?
Transparency.
Transparency. Okay. Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about that. What does that mean?
It means that the business itself, the owners, the colleagues within engineering team, out of engineering team, all of open and honest, and we can see everything starting from amount of new clients who came to us, yeah, and they all behave like a part of one big team, like co-owners of the company, yeah, and we work as a co-owners and as a big team. It's a really interesting experience because previously I worked on bigger companies, much bigger corporations, and it was very different experience. On bigger companies, usually you work as a part of smaller department, and somewhere exists some owners of the company, and you see just a small amount of information about company and the process, and it isn't supposed that you will go out of your kind of informational bulk within the company. The board of company gives you some smaller part, and you have to work with it. And in FundThrough, we have a clear understanding what's going on across company. We can ask any questions related to business, to finances, and all of that. This feeling of honesty and openness, it's really elating.
Very good, very good. It sounds like you know, the environment and you know, the culture that you have in FundThrough seems like something that you probably wanted for a long time. The way you describe it to me seems like it's something that you felt like, okay, this was it different? How was it when you were making a decision to join this company? I'm curious about that. Was there what were you considering when you were thinking about, should I take this offer or not?
I considered the financial statements of the company. Is it stable enough? Yep, to support the team and development and engineering part of this, because a lot of startup has problems with this. Also, I gathered some information from public sources like AngelList, Crunchbase, and a lot of metrics from the internet about the company. Is it growing? Is it healthy? And also, I tried to gather information about founders and companies. So within this week, from the initial meeting and the finalizing group of meeting, and I gathered information about the company. So how does it work? Is it healthy? And it was very important for me, because arriving to a company which is on the verge of bankruptcy is not a good idea.
Yes. Interesting. Okay. Very, very analytical, and I like it how you had an objective assessment of the company before making that decision. Really important points, and I think it's definitely something for everyone to consider, if whether you're applying to jobs on your own or if you're part of our community and applying to us. I mean, we usually always work with companies that we feel like are like that, but of course it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do your own homework. And what you did, Viktor, I think is definitely valuable insight and good practice when you're trying to evaluate offers. Very good. Yep.
As for me, it's just impossible to move to another country without any knowledge about the company itself. I cannot understand how engineers can do this, but I saw a couple times.
Yes. Yeah, it's right. I think, well, obviously, probably your experience and, you know, the type of environments that you've worked in probably have given you this insight to consider these things, consider these points that I think are super important. And I would definitely recommend everyone to do this homework on companies. And that's probably the number one thing that we work on with candidates once we try to get them to apply to companies, is to push them to do homework and research on the company as much as they can. It helps you in so many ways throughout the interview process and when you're making a decision if you get to a final offer. Very important point, and thank you for sharing that with us. Someone from the actual live audience asked, Yuri asked, what level of English did you have the moment you applied to the job? So this isn't a long time ago. Do you feel like your English level was different back then? Or
Definitely. My understanding is much better currently, and pluralism of languages in company. We have a vast diversity, 24 countries and 14 native languages in the team.
Wow.
And understanding of all of this kind of English was very important.
Okay. And in the company, you feel like, you know, you can communicate easily with everyone, and you don't feel like there's any barriers there, even with people who are native English speakers? Do you feel like, you run into problems, or no, it's mainly okay, and you survive?
Currently, it's mainly okay. I would
Okay.
say 90%, but
Hmm.
when I arrived, it was kind of challenge.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's also another point to consider, and I think that's an important um, point for people who are beginning this journey, is to consider that you don't need to be perfect. Obviously, if your current working environment is not, everyone is not communicating in English, it's going to take you some time to get used to it, adjust to it. But I can see a great example here, Viktor, with you. So I'm pretty sure it's definitely doable for anyone who just puts in a little bit of effort and exposes themselves to this environment. So that's
And
good. Really interesting.
as an answer for question of Yuri, I can say that I have IELTS 6.5 band score, and
Okay.
it's approximately B2 on
Yep.
general levels of English.
Okay, perfect. So that's actually quite a quantitative measurement of your level. So that's good. Perfect. So let's go to, I hope Yuri, you got your answer to that question. I think it was an important one, and I hope everyone else considers that too. So we have some interesting questions from the community. Someone asked, which I think is also an interesting question: why did you choose Canada and not the USA?
Because of opportunity to get a permanent residence. In the
Okay.
United States, it's a big lottery eventually, so you then cannot achieve permanent residence in any robust way. And in contrast to this, in Canada, I have several ways how to get a permanent residence card for me and my family.
Wow. Okay. Okay. That's a It's an interesting way to look at it, and probably considering that you're looking at a long-term commitment to that to that location. I think it makes sense to have some kind of permanent status there as well. So that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Um, and do you know how you can apply for that, or how long it will take before you can apply for your permanent residency?
I know how I can apply. I had a consultation with immigration lawyers,
Hmm.
and I'm going to do this in a couple next months. And
Okay.
the process itself usually takes from 1 to 2 years.
Okay. And how long do you need to be in Canada, just to share information with other people, which I'm sure have this question on their mind? How long do you need to be in Canada before you can actually apply for your permanent residency?
Uh, you can apply for permanent residency even being out of Canada, actually.
Hmm.
And it's just a question of your points and eligibility. For someone who has good education and good language can apply out of Canada without any job, but having a valid job offer and current job in Canada, it makes the process itself much easier.
Hmm. Okay, okay. Also, I think another valuable piece of information for everyone. So it is possible to start this process. I think this is just an additional point. Obviously, you're landing in Canada with a job. You're getting familiar with the environment. And of course, if you do decide to take the permanent residency route, you do have quite a lot of extra points added to your application.
A,
So
a lot
that's,
of a lot of
yeah.
extra points.
Yeah, I think it's I think I think basically if you do have that, you're you're almost guaranteed to be in the pool draw that happens in the express entry. So that's pretty good. Good good way of looking at it. Um, there was some other questions. Let's see. Do you have a great GitHub profile? If yes, what role do you think it played in getting the offer?
I don't have a great GitHub profile. And mostly because of kind of my job as a DevOps engineer. Most of my job it's automation and configuration, templates and scripts. And usually it's closely related to business of company and infrastructure, and it's nonsense to share it through GitHub in general, and nobody interested in build scripts for some software projects. And just to this purposes, GitHub profile mostly as a authentication entity user, not for storage of my own source code.
Yes, makes sense. Did you have anything else that you think contributed to your application other than your resume? Do you think there's anything else that helped you stand out?
Good knowledge of my main tasks. So mostly I'm working with AWS platform, and good knowledge of pro and contras of this platform, good knowledge of limitations and drawbacks of this platform, and understanding which tool is the best for specific tasks. Because there is no silver bullets, and it's very good to know the limits.
Interesting. So you feel, okay, that's really good. So you think just by having excellent knowledge of your domain and experience with a bunch of different tools that can get the job done, you feel like that is what kind of made you stand out in the interview process?
Yes.
Sorry?
Yes, I think it's true.
Yeah. Okay, good. I mean, I'm not sure, but was there any algorithmic questions? This was a question from the community as well. Did you have any algorithmic questions during your interview process with FundThrough?
No, but I have questions related to scalability and proper monitoring.
Okay.
Systems and knowledge about how to configure, how to scale runtime and applications, how to scale up and scale down databases, how to avoid known issues with this, and how to work with big databases. It was really important because it also requires good knowledge and good experience with this, because working with database in 100 gigabytes of size and working with database in 5 terabytes of size, it's a very different experience, and you have to know how to work this, how to avoid it. And also one of my previous positions, I worked as a performance engineer, and I had to know how to work with algorithms in Python, in Ruby, in Java mostly, and how to avoid and fix memory leaks, how to create distributed systems, how to create multi-threaded platform, and how to create a parallel jobs, and all of this stuff related. So, and some questions were related to this.
Okay. And how much of your interview process do you think was focused more on the technical side versus kind of cultural fit and on the soft skills?
I would say 75% questions
75%.
were about technical part.
Okay. Interesting. And were there any specific platforms or tools used, or how was the actual technical interview sessions done? Were they just like you're sitting in front of Skype or Zoom or some kind of live chat platform, or is there some kind of tool that was used to do the interview? Can you share a little bit about that?
It has been done by Skype video chats, and some of them questions was with open answers, and we had a couple tricky questions related to how would you do something, and you have to explain your logic, how to implement this, how you can avoid this, how you can get a success in this way. And definitely people who ask us this know the tricky parts. And I was lucky. I also know these tricky parts and get the right answers.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Did you have any did you do any studying for these kind of tests? Did you have any databases of questions that you practiced or anything like that?
No, mostly it was based on my experience.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Alicia asked, did you feel you made any mistakes in the technical interview? How many errors and the level of them? Were they critical or were they trivial mistakes? How would you respond to that?
I would say I made a couple errors in terms. So, for example, I misused SLA and SLO. Yeah. And since I explained the difference and fixed it myself, I think it's not a major issue. And most of errors were related to language itself, not to technical meaning.
Okay, okay. I hope you got your answer, Alicia. So two more questions related mainly to your relocation. So one of them is asking, did your company provide an LMIA, which is a labor market impact assessment, which is usually used for different types of work permits in Canada? Did your company have to get an LMIA? Do you know about that or no?
Yes, the company get LMI general for this position, and they had to issue another one LMI for me, especially because I don't have a degree, and the previous LMI required the degree, and they had to issue another one without such requirements.
Okay, interesting.
And also, company agreed to facilitate me with express entry activities.
Nice. Okay, well, that's pretty good. And last question I have here from Ruben regarding your house hunting before landing. So you mentioned you already had your apartment figured out before you got there. How did you do that? Did you use websites or any help from anyone?
After receiving the visa and just after receiving of the visa, I contacted the local community of immigrants from ex-USSR in Toronto and asked some crucial questions like how to get the apartments and all of them. And I got a reference from one of the member of the community, and they referenced me to landlord who had a good experience with people from out of Eastern Europe, and he agreed to rent the room for me.
Nice. Okay. So you basically used a community, and this was the community you mentioned. Was this some kind of like private community, or was it like an official community sponsored by?
It's a private community, but you can get there by open community. So we have a lot of Russian-speaking chats related to migration to Canada, and once you have requisites, some visa or permanent residence card or something like this, you can apply it to these private communities related to people who already here.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Great. So lots of interesting points. Yuri also asked an interesting question. I don't know if you want to respond to it or not. He's asking whether you're making enough salary to make a living in Canada. I'm assuming the answer to that is yes, but if that's not the case,
I would say that average salary on Glassdoor is enough to live in Toronto with a family.
Really? Okay. Okay.
So if you choose, for example, senior or lead DevOps engineer in Glassdoor and look into average salary on Toronto area, you will see the specific numbers, and it's enough.
Okay. That's I think that's a great response. I hope you got your answer, Yuri. Well, I think it's time to wrap up this call. We had so many great insights from you, Viktor. Thank you so much. But I will always like to capture some advice before we say goodbye. So, what did you wish you knew before you started this process? Do you have any advice that you have for other candidates that want to start this journey?
Yes, I would say be prepared before arriving. So learn what about insurance, living, cost of living, commuting, and all of this stuff. It's very crucial because you will not have so much time after arriving. You just have to know this before arriving. And the second part is learn English. Even if you think you know English good enough, it's not enough.
Mm-hmm. So practice on that, I guess. A personal question at the end. What are you looking forward to next? Is there any big milestones, anything interesting that you have in the near or far future that you're looking forward to?
Getting and permanent residence.
Okay. That's good. Seems like a fair goal to have. All right. Thank you so much, Viktor.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you. I hope everyone in the audience and people who will be listening to this at some time in the future will take away some notes that will help them make their journey a little bit easier. That's the whole point of this conversation. And kind of maybe we helped remove some barriers for them to get started. I wish the best for you and your family. I hope you enjoy your time in Canada, and hope to see you, going up the ladders of success.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.